Hello everyone, my name is Michael SK and welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry Rei. And we are in the first of 3 chapters to check out in this game. And this first one seems to be a real doozy right off the bat. We're following Rika, and she supposedly died, and therefore she is reborn again in a whole new world. This world has been completely flipped on its head. Truly, I don't even know what's going on. A lot of this is a mystery for all of us, which is actually pretty cool. It's one of those stories where the main character is thrown into a very different scenario where things are not necessarily opposites, but are just set up in ways that you would not imagine. People are acting differently, but the same. And that's kind of what we're seeing here, and it works out really well because Rika already has this jumping into different worlds upon death, trying to find a way through or answer or whatever sort of ability that we've been seeing. So it kind of just fits. So I waited, just to let you guys know, I waited a while to record this next episode because, well, one, I have to finish up robotics notes. That's my very high priority on my channel right now if you're watching these videos as they come out. But another thing is that I was recording in advance before coming back from a little break that I was doing of uploading videos, and I wanted to see what people would comment on the first episode. And it was mostly just kind of explanations as to what all the chapters are about. And I guess I was right. There is a chapter that nobody seems to really like. It is just pain, and I will just leave it at that because I think for those that are unaware of it, I think we should all go into it as blind as possible. As painful as it may be, blind is good here. All right, let us continue on. Rika just came home after her first day in this lovely new world where so many things are just so different. I went to my room, put down my book bag, and took a breath. Usually when I was by myself, Hanyuu would appear. But in this world, she hadn't shown up. How long are you planning on wasting my time? Or wasting time? Both work. Hurry up and appear and take me back to my original world. I knew by now that this world was odd and filled with what-ifs. I had it up to here with my exploration of this alternate universe. But Hanyuu did not appear. Oh, that's right. Hanyuu was by herself in the ritual storehouse a lot. Maybe she was there right now. In any case, whatever else happened, I just wanted to see Hanyuu. I put on my shoes and ran out towards the shrine. As I turned my back on my annoying mother who called after me, asking if I'd really rinsed out my mouth. In a world where my father was alive, it was hard to get the key to the storehouse. But thanks to the innumerable worlds that I had been through, I found a way to get into the storehouse without it. I could hear the elders having a pleasant talk in the assembly hall, my father's laughs mixed in with theirs. My father hated me even going near the ritual storehouse. Well, considering what it stored, I could sort of understand why he wouldn't want to let his beloved daughter inside it. Oh yeah, definitely a lot of murderous tools is totally okay for really anybody to be around. After making sure nobody was looking, I climbed up a tree growing behind the storehouse. My climb didn't go as smoothly as when Sadako had shown me that she could do it. In any case, I crawled up stubbornly and jumped down onto the storehouse roof. I was a little scared of jumping. I climbed pretty high off the ground. Even a centurion witch cannot escape the danger of heights. What a name. What a title. If I recalled right, there was a broken lattice window on the roof and you can get in and out through there. And this world was betraying all my expectations and giving me the exact opposite. I considered that maybe you couldn't go in and out through it anymore. But in the place Sadako once told me about, it was broken just like she said, and a child would be able to fit inside. Even trivial things like this were a relief. Yeah, it is nice to see things that we're somewhat used to, even so they're not the most helpful, and I'm sure that's why she's trying to find Hanyuu, somebody that is consistent among all the worlds that she has been through because, well, she actually follows her along to each world. Of course she's going to be consistent. However, I've got a bad feeling that here, if we do come across her, I don't think she's going to be the Hanyuu that we're wanting to see. Maybe just the sun setting in the west would be a relief for me right now, because in this world, it could always set in the east. Yeah, this discomfort that I felt at having it to doubt everything made me feel dizzy and sick.
Hanyuu?
Well, at least this place looks the same.
Hanyuu? Iru?
But why wouldn't it, you know? I mean, this village is always going to be this sort of village. No answer. I was too afraid to call out again, because maybe if I did, I still would not get an answer. For me personally, Hanyuu not existing in this world was the one dice roll that could not happen.
Hanyuu?
Then I felt something I could not describe. The presence of someone, but not a person. Something only I could perceive, the presence of Hanyuu. But Hanyuu always answered me when I called out for her. She wasn't now. What did that mean? But she was here. She was. I couldn't help poking my head through the roof. I climbed down a bundle of hanging chains and entered.
Hanyuu! Hanyuu! Doko nano? Henji o shite! Rika! Rika! Doko ni iru no desu ka?
Okay, maybe this is the Hanyuu that we're used to. This time I heard her for sure. There was no doubt.
Hanyuu! Watashi wa koko yo. Doko nano? Anata no sugata ga zenzen mienai. Rika! Rika! Henji o shite!
Hanyuu's feeble words implied that she was actually the one who couldn't hear my voice. I looked for a place where I could hear her better, Before I realized it, I went to the altar in front of the holy vessel. Something that looked like a small crystal ball was on the altar, and I sensed it giving off a faint light. That was where Hanyuu's voice seemed to be coming from. The ball was about the size of a large toy marble, but it was seated respectfully on a small cushion, which told me that it was no ordinary stone. I took the crystal ball in my hand and pressed it to my ear.
Rika! Kikoeta nara, mou ichido henji o shite kudasai! Rika! Rika!
There was no doubt. I was hearing Hanyuu's voice from this crystal ball, and it sounded like it was searching for me, growing more distant all the while.
Hanyuu! Kikoeru wa! Watashi yo! Rika yo! Watashi wa koko ni iru wa! Rika! Rika! Anata no koe ga kikoemasu desu! Doko ni iru no desu ka? Anata ga mitsukerare-nai. Koe ga tookute wakaranai. Motto tsuyoku yobikakete kudasai desu! Koko yo! Watashi wa koko yo! Doushite anata no koe ga suishou dama kara kikoeru no? Sonna koto wa dou demo ii!
No, I feel like that is important. Let's not just throw that aside.
私はここよ。最後殿の祭壇の前にいるわ。羽生、羽生。あなたの声が聞こえます。今探してます。かけらを手放さないで。そのままもっと強く僕を呼びかけて。私はここよ。羽生、早く来て。羽生、羽生。
So I have a bad feeling. I have a feeling that somebody is going to hear Rika literally screaming here in this restricted location. For a while, I kept shouting her name as if I'd gone mad. It was like clinging to a tin can telephone right before the string snapped. If Hanyuu's voice cut off in the middle, if she left me behind alone in the darkness of this storehouse, well, that was scarier than anything else I could imagine. So as she told me to, I shouted her name over and over again. Hanyuu had to be searching for me by listening for my voice. I didn't know what her situation was, but it seemed Hanyuu and I were far away from one another, that we were immeasurably distant. It's possible that maybe she's not in the same world as us, and therefore she's looking for whatever fragment or way that she can get to where we are. And as the crystal ball's light strengthened, I knew she was coming closer. At first, the light I sensed from it had been faint, but now it was bright as a weak miniature light bulb, and I could clearly see it was shining.
Rika, どういうことですか? あなたのいる世界に入れない.
Ah, lovely.
はあ? 何を言ってんのよ. 助けてほしいのは私よ. 何でもいいから早く来て. 私をこの世界から連れ出して. リカ、よく聞いてくださいです。あなたの世界がなぜか僕を拒むのです。こんなことはありえないことなのです。
Given that she's both a paranormal existence and a deity, I couldn't imagine any situation that would make her anxious enough for her to weakly say, "This is impossible." All I could do is keep on wailing half insanely for her to do something, anything.
でもどうしようもないのです。はあ、こんなこと初めてです。ありえないんです。そんな情けないこと言ってないで、早くなんとかしてよ。なんとかして。ダメです、リカ。あなたの世界が僕を拒絶する力を放っているのです。それをなんとかしないと僕にはどうしようもないのです。わけわかんないこと言わないで。神様のあんたを拒む力って何よ。そんなのあるわけないでしょ。そうなのです。そんなのあるわけないのです。でもかけらがこちら側にないから断面を合わせられない。どうしてかわからないけど、かけらが今リカがいる世界に紛れ込んでしまっているのです。かけら？何の話？私にもわかるように説明して。私にできることなら何でもするわ。
So when they introduced this whole fragment thing in, what was it, chapters 7 and 8, it was weird. And I talked about it in my discussion video. I think it's like events that we need to be aware of. Like we have to line up all these events to, well, for one, for us to truly understand the story as we should. And I guess that's so we can enter worlds appropriately, maybe? I don't know. It had also something to do with how what's his face not coming back from the future, but being able to communicate with Hanyuu in the future, and I guess therefore in the world that we were in for chapter 8, I guess cooperate with us? I don't know. Things get a little weird in this department. Continuing to act so deranged won't help with anything. I managed to figure out what Hanyuu had wanted to say, and now I knew I had to eliminate the obstacle. The situation utterly escaped me, but it seemed like if I didn't do something, Hanyuu couldn't appear in front of me.
取り乱して悪かったわ。落ち着くからもう一度説明して。一体どういうことなの？リカ、どうしてかわかりませんが、神の世界にあるべきかけらの一部が今リカのいる世界に紛れ込んでいるようなのです。それは例えるなら、開けるべき扉の中にその鍵が閉じ込められているかのよう。
So all the fragments that we pretty much saw that allow us to get to all the worlds that we were able to get to, these are events basically that needed to happen. These are events that we should be completely aware of going into the events of every chapter. However, here, as we've been able to see, things are just completely flipped around.
かけらって何？リカにとって世界に見えるものはより高い次元の世界ではかけらと呼ばれているのです。そのかけらをジグソーパズルのように組み合わせて世界を渡り歩いてきたのです。
Nope, I'm wrong.
なるほど。その例えでなんとなく状況は分かったわ。
Or maybe I'm right. I don't know. It's such a confusing thing.
私が今いるこの世界というかけら、いえ、ジグソーパズルのピースは噛み合う部分がどうにかなっていて、周りのピースと組み合ってくれないと。そうです。その欠けた部分は必ずこちら側にあるのですが、なぜかこちら側ではなくそちら側にあるのです。神の世界にあるべきかけらがなぜか人間の世界にこぼれ落ちていて欠陥を起こしているってこと？そんなところなのです。わかったわ。そのかけらをどうにかすればいいわけね。あなたの指示に従うわ。そのかけらはどこにあるの？それをどうすればいいの？そこはあうあう言うところじゃないでしょ。どこにあるのよ。そしてどんな形をしているのよ。わからないので です。はあ？わからないものをどう探せってのよ。僕だってわかりません。だってここからはリカの声しか聞こえないのですから。今の僕にはその世界に干渉することが何もできないのです。かけらってからにはこんな感じの水晶のキラキラ光るかけらみたいな感じなの？多分そうだと思いますが、工事の世界にあるべきものが人間の世界にもたらされた場合、どんな姿に変わるのか想像もつきませんです。
Like, I know that the scenes that we've been seeing are like broken up big ass crystals that reflect off events that we're used to, because that's what these fragments are, right? They're events. So we need to come across a specific event that will allow her to actually traverse into this world. And I feel like it might have something to do with, I guess, people believing in her, in Oyashiro-sama? But they do here. But maybe it's because they're abandoning the village, maybe? I don't know. I felt all my energy drain out of me and I heaved a sigh.
探し物の形もわからないとは。最悪ね。で、仮にそれを見つけたらどうすればいいの？神の世界に戻すってどうやるの？それすらもわかんないっての。ごめんなさい。こんなこと初めてなんで、僕にもよくわからないのです。
Ha. I laughed mostly at myself, and before I realized it, I couldn't stop my tears from falling. After getting sent to this crazy world, I don't even know how to get back. Today of all days, I was in such high spirits going to the pool with my friends. That tiny fragment of happy days that we had all finally obtained after escaping the dead end of June 1983. And just because I was messing around on the way back just a little, I got sent to this horrible world.
それを愚痴ったら、結局道路でふざけてた私の不注意が悪いってことになるのよね。
I lost my balance on my bicycle, got thrown off, and then fell into the car there. A common traffic accident. Yeah, common. A common death of a child. It just happened to be it happened to be me this time. The future that I had won after over 100 years, now just because of that, everything was in pieces. I could wail all I want, but the only thing at fault was my own carelessness. In fact, I should be thankful to Hanyuu for letting me live. But sending me to a world like this, it's too cruel. No, it wasn't as though Hanyuu had sent me here because she wanted to. I know that. I know that.
リカも覚えている通りなのです。僕たちの力はどんどん痩せ衰えていった。そしてその力の最後の挑戦で勝利を勝ち取ったのです。だからこの力はもう二度と使えないはずでした。その使えないはずの力で私を助けてくれたということ。はい、もうどうしようもありませんでしたのです。リカの体は自転車から投げ出され、サイコロの目次第では車の上を転がって怪我ぐらいで済んだかもしれません。でも運悪く投げ出されたリカは車のタイヤの前に。
Damn, imagine all of Chapter 8 and then Rika just gets ran over. That's awful. From Hanyuu's words colored with sadness, it felt like that she had watched me fly off, get run over by the car, and die.
みんながはって絶句して呆然として、車は急ブレーキでガードレールにぶつかってすごい音がしましたが、そしてサトコがリカの体に駆け寄るのですが、あなたが
Nice. Wait, oh, we actually don't get voice lines for this? Really? We're still having this problem. God damn. The car crushed my head flat.
知恵がいつも言ってたっけ？道路でふざけちゃいけませんって。
I could imagine the rest of the story without Hanyuu telling me. That fun day that we had was wiped out in an instant by my careless fooling around. We dove together into the longest June 19th, 1983 of these past 100 years, and the peaceful future we finally reached through the sharing of countless miracles was wiped out in an instant. My corpse was too horrible to look at. Sadako came running over first, and then everyone else came, and they all wished that they'd wake up from that nightmare until they lost all hope, broke down, and wept. Compared to that heart-splitting sadness, the one who was actually careless, grumbling about wanting to go home since this world was uncomfortable, counted for nothing. Did that mean in the end it was all my own fault? I had struggled through so many years to reach that future, and I'd carelessly lost it by nobody's fault but my own. And I was blessed since Hanyuu was here for me, so I should be thankful, because if that had happened to someone other than me, they would just, lose their life and nothing more. Just the fact that there was hope, even if it was only a single tiny ray, surely meant I was fortunate.
ありがとう。バカが不注意で事故死なんて日本中にいくらでも溢れてる。私もそのうちの一人だった。だから死の子の言わずに死ねばいいものを。こうしてあなたのおかげで妙なことにはなりつつも、そしてとても難しいことには違いないけど、元の世界に戻る方法がゼロなわけじゃない。おさらいするわね。私を元の世界に連れ戻すには羽生がここにやってこなくてはならない。そうね。
はい、もちろんです。僕も早くリカと一緒に元の世界に戻りたいのです。
当然よ。100年を超える日々を経て勝ち取ったあの世界へ戻るのよ。そのために私はさらに100年の年月を経てもいい。負けるもんかくじけるもんか、ほんのちょっと道路でふざけただけでもう100年の懲役を追加されても泣くもんか。
No, but it will make the Higurashi cry.
リカ、元の世界でもみんなが祈ってます。自分の命を捧げても時間を巻き戻して事故をなかったことにしてほしいって。その祈りがあったから僕はきっとリカを見つけることができたのですよ。
In the storehouse, in which I could smell only dust, I thought I caught the scent of incense. I couldn't see it, couldn't hear it, but somehow I knew. It was my funeral, and I thought I could hear them, my friends heartbroken, grieving over my coffin. Their cries were incredibly sad, so painful, as though it would tear me apart. I understood. My carelessness. It had destroyed not only my life, but everyone else's happiness.
帰るわ。私は絶対に元の世界に帰るわ。それがどんなにか細い道でも絶対。
My tears, filled with sadness, mixed with determination, mixed with saltiness, dropped to the floor.
リカ、その世界に閉じ込められたことだってあの昭和58年の袋小路と同じ。一見どうしようもない運命に見えて絶対ではないのです。
分かってるわ。圭一に教えられた。そして高野にまで教えられたわよね。
Fate was thinner than a goldfish scooping net, and strong enough feelings can reshape the future.
そうです、リカ。その域なのです。確かにきっかけはリカの不注意だったかもしれませんです。でもリカにはそれを償い、なかったことにできる機会が与えられた。それはとても幸運なことなのです。
分かってる。普通の人間なら来世でやり直しってところを私だけが最後のチャンスをもらえてる。その意味理解できてるわ。
リカ、なんとかして僕を拒むかけらを探し出してほしいのです。僕もこちら側の世界から何かわからないか探してみます。
ノーヒントってのが答えるわね。あと この世界に羽生がいない以上、この世界で私が死んだら、ジ・エンドってことなんでしょう。
I was wondering about that, and I think that is the case since we don't have Hanyuu with us.
はい。今のその世界には、僕の力は及びませんのです。だから、どうかリカ、くれぐれも注意して。
わかってる。二度と道路でふざけたりしないわ。
ヒントは確かにありませんが、でも、僕はこの村の神様で、この村だけを見守ってきました。その僕に干渉する力なのですから。おそらく、その力も、村の中にあるものだと思いますです。
この村のどこか、あなたに関わるものだとしたら、正直なところ、この西宮殿の中に収められていると思うんだけど。
リカ、西宮殿の中に、いつもの世界にはない何かが収められてはいませんか？
This orb?
どうかしら。すぐにはわからないわ。その何かが目立つものって保証もないんでしょ。
僕に干渉するくらいなのですから、多分神の世界に限りなく近い場所に踏み入ったことのあるリカなら、その気配を感じ取れるかもしれませんのです。
また難儀な話ね。少なくともこの祭壇にあるものは、この水晶玉も含めて何も変わりないと思うわ。しかし不思議な水晶玉ね。ただのビー玉のくせにずいぶん偉そうなところに陳列してあると日頃から思ってたけど。
リカが今手にしているのはフルデ神社の至宝カムの御事のりと呼ばれるもの。
The what? Hold on. The Kamu no Mikoto no Ri?
かつて僕がお社様としてフルデ神社に奇跡を示した時、その印として残したものです。長い時間の中で込められた力のほとんどは薄れてしまいましたが、幸運にもこうして理科に及ぶ唯一の僕の力となりましたのです。
Yeah, luckily that worked out.
もっと力が残っていれば、あるいはこんな力に屈せずその世界へ迎えに行けたかもしれないのに。
ということは、この水晶玉であなたと話をするのも限られた時間だけということなのね。
はい。リカには僕の声が聞こえていますか？僕の方にはどんどんリカの声が小さくしぼんでいくように聞こえますのです。
なるほど。電池の切れかかったトランシーバーってわけね。わかった。無駄な連絡は慎むようにするわ。それならもうしばらくは話ができるんでしょ？
多分。
Hopefully.
十分よ。私はこれから西宮殿の中を漁るわ。この水晶玉と同じサイズだとしたら、どこに紛れ込んでてもおかしくない。それに西宮殿の中とは限らないんでしょ。根気のいる作業になるわね。
リカ、どうか頑張って。僕はここにいて応援することしかできない。そしてその応援の言葉すらもう限られてしまっている。
大丈夫よ。絶対にこちらの世界の扉を開いてあなたを招き入れるわ。あなたと一緒にあの楽しかった世界へ戻ることを約束するわ。だからあなたも頑張って。何かヒントになりそうなことが分かったら教えて。
はい。
じゃあもうこれくらいにしましょう。更新を終わるわ。またね、羽生。約束する。元の世界へ帰れたら冷蔵庫をシュークリームで埋め尽くしてあげるわ。
その約束、楽しみに待っていますのです。
Hanyuu's voice gently vanished like water seeping into sand. But that didn't mean Hanyuu had vanished. It was kind of like I was talking to Hanyuu on a public phone and my 10 yen ran out. We may have been in different worlds, but we were cooperating, trying to get out of this world and back to the last one. When I thought about it, Hanyuu had always been my ally in my life. In this world, that ally was gone. Maybe that was a fitting punishment for wasting my life by being careless. To get back to the last world, I would pile up as many stones as I needed to, for these were the banks of the river Styx. Nirvana, from my viewpoint, as one who had lost her life to the previous world, or in the previous world. But I'll get back. I swear I'll get back there. And then suddenly, the inside of the storehouse brightened. Someone had just turned on the switch for the naked bulb hanging from the ceiling. And then with a heavy clank, the door opened. Yep, time to get in trouble. My father appeared there. His face was like a demon's. That was right. I had entered the cordon-off ritual implement storehouse. I only received the right to enter the storehouse when I succeeded them as the head of the Furude family, In other words, in a world with my parents alive, I wasn't allowed to come in here.
Rika! どこから入ったんだ? 西宮殿には入ってはならんと。あれほど言っただろう!
My father was in a rage. Thanks to the property imprinted into one's very genes that made children tremble when their father looks at them with a scary face, I reflexively cringed with fear. He grabbed me by the back of my neck and took me outside, and then I ended up being disciplined, something I'd forgotten for a very long time. My parents being here is such a bother. Just when I thought I'd been lucky that they made it through the year 1981, well, they're getting in the way of me returning to the final world. In the storehouse, I had been shouting Hanyuu's name pretty loudly, so he'd probably notice. See, I said that like 20 minutes ago that was probably going to happen. Somebody's probably going to hear her. I would investigate the storehouse for real tomorrow, but I'd have to take extreme caution so that my father did not find me. In the middle of the night, unable to sleep face up on my futon because of my rear end swelled up from all the spanking, I bit my pillow and cried, and then thought back over what I had to do. This was my room. This was my futon, but this wasn't where I was supposed to sleep. The futon I was supposed to go home to was in the small house on the second floor of the renovated warehouse, the one next to Sotoko's. But in this world, the youth group was probably still using it as a meeting place, so my futon obviously would not be there. Then what futon was I supposed to use in this world? Punishment for doing something stupid and careless, bringing the future we all won to nothing. I needed to find what was keeping Hanyuu away so I could call her here. It would take a lot of effort. For that reason, I needed to build up my energy and get some sleep. Shedding tears was nothing but a waste of time and stamina. I knew that, but until I fell asleep, I wept into my pillow. Alrighty. Is that like the entire day, the entire first day done? What a crazily long first day. And day in general, to be honest. Oh, we got an achievement. Another 83. Find yourself in a different world. I had hoped that Sotoko would be there when I woke up that morning. I had hoped this baffling world was just a half-awake dream of mine. So when I awoke, not to a familiar ceiling, but to the one of the Furude main house, I could feel nothing but disappointment. My mind hazy, I recalled the situation I'd been put into. Thanks to my own carelessness, I had gotten lost in this strange world. Hanyuu's power couldn't reach here, so it would be incredibly difficult to escape. It was like trying to climb up the spider's thread to paradise. But the spider's thread was still there. No matter how thin it was, its presence meant there was still a chance to discover what was blocking Hanyuu's power, and I didn't even know what it had looked like. The only possible clue was that Hanyuu was the deity of Hinamizawa, so it was probably in the village somewhere. I picked up the crystal ball, which I had snuck out of the ritual implement storehouse. The ball gave off a weak and somehow unnatural light. I pressed it to my forehead, and I could sense a faint presence that only I, as a witch, could feel. I was sure that whatever I needed to find, I would get the same feeling from it as this. But again, like the crystal ball, I'd probably have to hold it to my forehead to sense anything. It didn't seem like things would be as simple as wandering about until I felt something. But if it was related to Hanyuu's power like the crystal ball was, it was almost certainly in that storehouse. Unfortunately, the storehouse was a complete mess of everything from ancient torture devices to piles of old documents to mountains of trash I didn't even know how to use. The only place with any semblance of cleanliness was the space around the vessel and the altar. Finding anything, especially an object as small as this crystal ball, would be no simple matter.
Rika! 早く食事を済ませて学校に行きなさい!
I had heard my mother's voice from the kitchen. The school in this world wasn't the one I went to. If I had the time to go somewhere I didn't belong, then I should be using it to search the storehouse. But there was no proof my search would only take 1 or 2 days. I really hated to say it, but since I didn't even know what it looked like, maybe I needed to prepare myself for the search to take years. And if I didn't go to school, Chie, ever conscientious, would call the house to see if I was staying home that day. And if that happened, it would cause trouble with both the school and my parents. I could not imagine how much time this search would take. The thing is, it can't take years because we only have a limited amount of time, half a year I believe, to complete our search because, hello water, if my parents grew suspicious, things would get harder. Slow and steady wins the race, I guess. Although it was frustrating, for weekdays it would be better to pretend I was going to school like normal. I let out a languid sigh, got up, and decided to eat breakfast. During mealtime, my mother's ramblings about how I was never allowed to go into the ritual storehouse again steadily made the food taste worse. My mother was always insistent and long-winded. I hated this part of her. The elders in the village laughed and said that she couldn't help it, since she did it for her only beloved daughter, but to me, she was just a nuisance. Tough love wasn't what I needed at the moment. The only thing I could be thankful for was, maybe, that I didn't have to make breakfast for myself. But I could do it on my own, so I almost would have rather she left it to me. After I was done eating and started getting ready for school, my mother continued to nag me about making it on time. How aggravating. Maybe going to school wasn't so bad. I wouldn't have to see my mother's face for half a day. I thanked her for the food, cleaned my plate and utensils in the sink, and left immediately for school. Now, just to make sure we're all on the same page here, it does seem that Rika's being a little unfair to her mother, but from what we've seen out of some fragments in Chapter 8, her mother was extremely unreasonable and really in the way of a lot of things. And, well, I don't know. I don't want to say that she deserved death, but with everything going on, there was a lot of fishy stuff going on. She pissed off the wrong people, I would say. That's how I see it. If everything was going to betray my expectations anyway, I wish class would too. But even in this world, class went the exact same way as the world I knew. I thought I had escaped that world, and now it was repeating. Thinking that way made me feel even more listless. Normally I'd distract myself by teasing Sotoko, but her seat was far away from mine. She was probably also bored with class that she didn't know what to do with herself. Satoshi, earnestly studying in the next seat over, was constantly trying to get her to focus. Mion seemed to be butting into Reina's business too. Oh yeah, that's right, she goes by Reina here. She doesn't do the Rena thing. But they weren't fooling around. It was a strange, though pleasant sight. They were helping one another learn. Actually, they weren't the only pleasant sight. Everyone in the classroom was like that. I felt like I was the only one left out. I didn't know whether my seat was in its own row because of the odd number of students, or if I had chosen this seat on purpose in this world, but it felt like my seat was separated from the rest of the classroom. When lunchtime came, I felt even more alienated. My classmates formed groups with friends and took out their food. The club members who would always eat with me weren't here. Sotoko was part of a circle of several friends, including her brother. There was no place for me to wedge myself into. Mion and Reina were sitting face to face as they ate. No room for me there either. And nobody asked me if I wanted to eat with them. And they had fun eating their own meals, so this seemed natural, like it was something that happened every day. For a short while I waited, hoping for Sotoko or Mion or Reina to invite me over. And after the clock's minute hand moved 5, and then 10 places, I realized I might even be left behind in eating, and finally gave up and opened up my bento box. Inside were the leftovers of last night's burned Hamburg steak and white rice with nori seaweed that was now sticky, spinach wrapped with gooey nori, and the remains of kimpira with chopped burdock root, also burned. I don't know what any of this is. I guess I'd forgotten about that. For some reason, my mother overcooked everything. Summer is dangerous if you don't let the heat in was a favorite phrase of hers. She would cook steaks until they were rock hard, and even when she made fish, she would turn half their insides to ash. Why? Even Sotoko was better than that. At least she knew how hot to cook things. And when I learned how to cook from Hanyuu and started to make things better than my mother, she must not have been happy. It tasted terrible too. No presentation either. If Mion decided to have a bento contest and I only had this, I'd end up in last place. But there was no club in this world, so I didn't have to worry about that. Sotoko's happy laughter not being directed at me made me feel sad. Suddenly our eyes met. Did my feelings get through? Doubt it. Sotoko burst out of her seat and glared at me.
さっきからジロジロと何見てんのよ。何か文句あんなら直接言ったら？文句なんかないです。
やめなよ、サトコ。
Oh yeah, there's some beef here for sure, for whatever reason.
たまたま目があっただけじゃないか。
たまたまじゃないもん。ずーっとジロジロ見てんの。気持ち悪いったらありゃしない。
Sotoko and her friends began whispering amongst themselves while looking at me. I couldn't hear what they said, but I could easily imagine them enjoying themselves.
ごめんなさいです。ジロジロ見ないです。そうしてよね。せっかくのクリームコロッケの味が落ちちゃうもん。
Jesus. I angled my desk a little so that I couldn't see Sotoko and the others. At first, I had called this world's Sotoko cold, but it looked like I was mistaken. This world's Sotoko didn't even like me, or outright hated me. And the other kids close to my age seemed to have formed a community around her, with no place for me in it, so they all hated me too. Where is this coming from, though? Like, where is this, angst, coming from? There has to be a reason that they don't like her, or did the Rika in this world just kind of put herself in this really awkward solitude, and it just really made people not like that either, and therefore her as a result. The hardened ash-like steak tasted of salt. Why did I have to feel this sad and lonely when I ate? And all the other worlds, all the club members would be enjoying lunch together. Sotoko would be there, and Rena, and Mion, and Keiichi. Everyone would be having fun and spending their break cheerfully and noisily. That was when Reina came over and peered into my bento box.
リカちゃんのお弁当はハンバーグとほうれん草なんだね。美味しそう。
It was clear that Reina had come over to try and comfort my distress, and for some reason that was frustrating, so I didn't want to answer her. When I stayed silent, she held out an octopus-shaped sausage in front of me.
そのほうれん草の海苔巻きとタコさん交換しよう。ね。
Reina, trying to be nice as I ate lunch alone, hated by my classmates, I just couldn't accept it. I suddenly said I was going to wash my hands and then left, and in a bathroom stall, I covered my face with toilet paper and cried. The tears soaked through the paper and crinkled it up, but I didn't care. This was fine. It was better if I didn't have friends in this world. I had plenty of friends in the one I needed to return to. There, even Sotoko was my irreplaceable best friend, and all the club members who would never leave me alone during lunch hour were waiting for me. Why would I be sad that some Sotoko I didn't know was being mean to me in a world I didn't care about? Why would I be? But despite the lies I told myself, I couldn't stop crying for a while. I decided to steel my resolve and wait for school to end. Then I'd run back home, say I was going out to play, and sneak into the ritual implement storehouse again. That was the only way I could get back to my original world. I had to try and do my best for that purpose alone. Okay. I looked into the mirror in the bathroom to see a face red from crying. If Chie saw me like this, things would probably get even more complicated. I washed my face and then spent the rest of lunch break quietly in a corner of the classroom. Fun. Not really. This is very miserable. But if anything, it really does show how much Rika truly cares for her friends in any world. It truly. Sure, there were moments, such as in chapter 7 and 8, where she was very discouraged, but her friends were always there. And when they really, showed up to protect her and protect the world that she desired, oh, they showed up. After school, I literally dashed out of the building. It would be a huge pain if I ended up caught in the rush of the other classmates as they headed out to go play. I think Satoshi called after me, but I ignored him. He was probably just trying to apologize for his sister about what had happened during lunch. I didn't care about that. I didn't want to stay in this horrible world a second more than I needed to. I have a feeling that the fragment, or whatever we're looking for, isn't in that storehouse. I feel like it's an event that we need to stumble across elsewhere. If it is an event we're looking for and not necessarily an object. I ran full speed back to the house, ignored my mother when she asked, as usual, if I had any homework, and searched for a lantern. Then I told her I was going out to play, and without waiting for a response, burst out of the house. Then I went around the shrine and looked for my father. I saw a note hanging on the assembly hall that had said that there was a shrine association meeting. I could hear my father's voice amidst the lighthearted chatter. It was the same opportunity I had yesterday. Today I have to be careful not to let on that I was inside. After making sure nobody was looking, I climbed up the tree I had gotten the hang of yesterday. I had been scared of the height before, but I wasn't afraid any longer, probably because I had cried my eyes out and resolved myself during lunch. What I really had to be afraid of wasn't heights or my parents or the cold-hearted Sodoko. It was not being able to return to my original world. Also, we should be afraid of death because that can happen, and that will be permanent. The next scariest thing would be losing contact with Hanyuu, I think. In the darkness of the storehouse, I took the crystal ball out of my pocket. Its weak glow seemed a little more energetic than yesterday. Maybe if she rested, a little of her power would come back. Nevertheless, it was still weak. If I wasted it on a fruitless conversation, the light might go out entirely. I firmly squashed down the desire to check and make sure I could still call her and turned on the lantern. It was time to go treasure hunting. Was there anything around, anything only I could feel? Something that felt the same as this crystal ball somewhere. I closed my eyes, honed my senses, and hoped. But all I heard were the cries of cicadas. I hadn't expected anything else. It looked like this would be a tough nut to crack. Searching the entire storehouse, how much time would that take? I didn't want to imagine it. But I had to do it or I couldn't go home. Well, time to search. I would do it systematically. Start in the corner and go in order. Without knowing what it looked like, I'd start in the corner and go from there, not even letting water past. And despite all that, I had no proof it was even in here. I felt like it would be easier to just fight Takano and the mountain dogs again. Well, in that case, we actually have like a goal or objective that we're aware of. Time for another day. I think that day just went by. I think this is just showing us a passage of time. Rika doing the same thing over and over again, just trying to find something. No, I understand what she means, though. It wasn't easy for her to fight Takano and the mountain dogs, but she was able to. She won. And that was a really difficult thing for her to pull off with her friends, but at the same time, it was something that she was able to identify as a very clear objective in order to win.
つまり、相変わらず弱々しくしか届かないということね。こんな無駄話は不要ね。いえ、今の理科には無駄話も必要と思いますです。かもね。ありがとう。こちらから話すわね。細工伝を自分なりに散々漁ったつもり。でもさっぱりだわ。1週間くらいは探してみたつもりだけど、何しろ探しているものの形がわからないんだもの。仮に見つけていたとしても、 私は気づかずに放置しているかもしれない。正直辛いわ。せめて形だけでもわかれば、あるいは細具殿の中にあるという保証でもあれば、ずっとここに閉じこもっていると頭がどうにかなってしまいそうよ。
わかります。とても辛い探し物だと思いますです。僕もせめてかけらの姿がわからないかいろいろ頑張ってますのです。
それで何かわかった？
かけらは理科の世界では思いと解釈されていますのです。その思いが何かに宿る形でかけらとなっているのです。
理屈はわかるけど、だからって何のヒントにもならないわね。
それからそのかけらをこちらの世界に戻す方法なのですが、おそらくそちらの世界での形を失えば良いのではないかと思いますです。
形を失うって何？壊せってこと？
それも完全な形でなのです。人の世からなくなることで神の世に送ることができるのです。
質量保存の法則って知ってる？完全に物を消すなんて不可能よ。
いえ、ですから形を壊せばいいのです。わかりますか、リカ？古来から人が神に物を送る方法の中でそれを満たす方法がありますのですよ。
そうか、わかったわ。
A way ancients sent tributes to the gods, a way to get rid of something from the human world.
焼けってことね。焼いて灰にして天に送る。
そうです。焼いて灰にすることで形は失われて意味を失い、人の世から消え去りますのです。
But here it's feelings. How do we burn feelings? Is it somebody specifically, like their feelings, and we just have to crush them or some shit? Like, what do we got going on? Feelings.
なるほど。かけらが宿る何かを焼いて灰にしろってのね。その何かが簡単に燃やせるものであることを祈るわ。岩だった日には溶鉱炉にでも放り込まなきゃならなくなるわね。
実はリカ、そのかけらが宿るのが物ではなく人である可能性もありますのです。
Hell yeah, murder.
なるほど。かけらは思いなんだもんね。物に宿るばかりってわけじゃないかもね。
And that's why I'm thinking it may not necessarily be that we have to burn literally, but burn figuratively.
でも羽生、仮に人だったらどうするの？まさか焼いて灰にしろって言うんじゃないでしょうね。
人の意味は命の形が失われた時点で失われます。
そりゃそうよね。死体はもはや人じゃないわ。ってことは、もしかけらが宿っているのが人だったら。
I'd believed until now that I'd been searching for an object, but maybe it doesn't even have to be that. I'd have no problem burning an object. But if it wasn't an object but a person...
嫌な話ね。この世界、どういうわけか嫌な想像に限って当たるのよ。
僕もそうでないことを祈るしかないです。
嫌な想像は大抵当たる。お逆手にとって先にそれを探るのも手ね。仮に人だったらやっぱりお社様に縁の近い人。
はい、おそらくは。
それが私自身。
いえ、ないです。リカ自身が僕を拒むかけらだったならこうして僕と話すこともできないはずなのです。
Yeah, that would have only pushed Hanyuu further away.
となれば次はフルデ神社神主の父かフルデ家の血を継ぐ母か。もしそうだったらぶっ殺せばいいってわけね。
Hell yeah, murder. My human morality, refused the idea of killing my parents. But that was nothing a world-crossing witch needed to think about. For someone with a true world somewhere else, this was a false world. Meaning it was the same as a dream. Murdering someone in a dream was no different from doing it in a delusion or daydream. There was nothing to consider about committing the sin in this world. Hanyuu was making sad ow-ow noises, so I told her how I felt. Well, the thing is,
偽善しゃぶるのはやめて。
the thing is, just like in other worlds that have been left behind by Rika, either by her not giving a shit or giving up or whatever, the world continues on, and we've seen that because we followed Keiichi, we followed Shion. Obviously, things carry on after Rika dies, so yeah, and I'm sure she realizes this too. After she is long gone, the world continues, so actions that she commits here, and if she's able to escape, well, those actions are permanent for this world going forward.
ならあんたは元の世界へ帰るのは諦めてもいいって言うのね。
It's like that damn trolley, like, do you pull the lever if it does this, and if you don't, it does this?
あんたは卑怯よ。手を汚す決断を私にだけさせて、自分の手は汚さないっていうつもり。罪を誰か一人にかぶせれば、他はみんな罪にまみれずに済んで好都合。私はちょうどいい人柱ってわけね。
I felt those words were a little harsh on Hanyuu. For a short while, she remained silent, not saying anything. But her breathing made it sound like she wanted to say something, but was hesitating.
私は元の世界に帰りたい。レナがどこかの世界で言ったわ。幸せになるにはどこまでの努力が許されるんだろうってね。私はその努力に限界なんてないって思った。
But Keiichi changed that. There's no limit to effort. But you have to talk to a lot of people to get their advice on whether your efforts are misplaced or not. That's why I was talking about it with Hanyuu, the only person who shared my current situation. And Hanyuu said that if the object possessing the fragment was a person, I had to kill them. I would want to avoid that, of course, if there were any other way. But if she had said that that was the only way, then I wouldn't hesitate. That was all.
僕も元の世界に帰りたいのです。
そうね、私もよ。
かけらが宿っているのが人でないことを祈ってます。
祈ってて、私も祈ってるわ。あと謝るわ。きついことを言い過ぎた。あんたにできることはヒント探しと私が挫折しないよう士気を保つことくらいなのよね。自らの手で鍵を探せないもどかしさを理解してなかったわ。
リカよりは辛くありませんのです。せめてリカの心が疲れてしまわないよう、僕にはこうしてお話をしていたわってあげることしかできませんのです。
ありがとう。あんたとするヨタ話がこの世界では一番楽しいわ。悪夢がその間だけ冷めるような感じ。
I see. I sort of understood why she said chatting could be important. Hanyuu is the only one I could talk to from my original world. If I lose contact with Hanyuu, maybe my connection to that world would weaken, and my memories would blur. And that would simply give birth to a miserable, broken-hearted girl living a delusion that this world wasn't the one she belonged in.
私に任せなさい。必ずあんたと一緒にあの世界へ帰るわ。だからあんたも引き続き何かヒントを集めて。私も何か進展があったらまたあんたに連絡するわ。
わかりましたです。リカ、しっかりファイトオーなのですよ。
Yeah, something like that. Nipa and all that. I couldn't hear Hanyuu anymore. The crystal ball's light had grown weaker than ever. But as long as it had its overworldly glow, then I could keep believing that this wasn't the world I was supposed to live in. Before, I might have shed a tear or two by now, but all the tears I could cry had dried up. I gripped the crystal ball tightly, savoring the cheer Hanyuu had given me. Do your best. Go for it, yay. With a Nipa in there, of course, I moved over to a spot with a pile of old documents. If it could interfere with Hanyuu, it had to be related to the legends of Yashiro-sama. So maybe, I thought, a clue would be written in one of the documents in that pile. Maybe even the thing I searched for wasn't in here. I could find a clue to it instead. I took a few documents from the pile and packed them into the knapsack I brought with me. I could read some, but couldn't understand any of the others. If something important was in one of the indecipherable ones, I would have no way of knowing. But I shouldn't think about that right now. I pulled out the few documents I could read and decided to read them in secret at school and in bed. As I went in and out of the storehouse, the chances of my parents finding out increased. In that sense, this would lower that risk, which made it a little easier for me. Maybe parents didn't understand their children best, and would be the first ones to help them, but that was when they were normal and not a witch like me. If their daughters started babbling about not being from this world, they'd probably tie her down and summon a noisy ambulance. Or, somebody even worse. If I were a little more cunning, I could flatter my parents and put the work in to make this world a little more bearable. But the more I thought about this world not being the one I lived in, the more apathetic I felt towards interacting with those who were here. And that was probably why it seemed like I was being more and more isolated in class. Of course, maybe you could say that that was my own fault. That was the kind of world that this was at the moment I arrived. I won't dare let anyone say that this is my fault. Of course, not a single person can tell the difference between Rika Furude and me anyway. I do wonder, I obviously brought this up earlier, but what the fuck did Rika do here, I mean, isolated and all, and maybe the way she acted, that's kind of what pushed people away and made them a little agitated by it, but was there a specific action, maybe, that pushed people away and made them not like her? Who is me? The me that isn't Rika Furude, who is she? Oh, those are the thoughts we don't need to be thinking. That is a bad thing to think about because, well, as she was bringing up, she needs to keep on believing that she isn't from this world. So, let's not think those thoughts. Alrighty, we'll call it there. I think this is a well-length episode. No, this is interesting. I don't know how long these chapters are, but I want to say that this one, because this one is the important one, right? I can't remember what people were telling me, that there was one important one just to read if you want to read it, and then the bad one. And I want to say the important one is the most significant, but maybe their own, they all have their own significance in their own ways, minus the one that people really don't want to jump into ever if they have a choice. Seriously, from what I've heard, it's not great, and I will experience that for myself when we get there, but I do wonder about the lengths, and if this one's longer than the others, or if they're all the same length. I don't know. I can't remember everything people say, but regardless, I do wonder how long this chapter is at the very least, and it'll give me an idea of, well, how much time do we got to figure out the mystery here? The mystery of how the fuck do we get back to our world? Which is a pretty daunting one, since I don't think we have too many clues other than feelings. Maybe something in regards to Sotoko? I don't know. Another hint that we have is that it's got to be something connected to the Furude family, because Oyashiro and all that, and the connection there with Hanyuu, because Hanyuu equals Oyashiro, but yeah, I get that, but what if feelings have something more in connection with Rika herself? And Sotoko's a really big part of that. We saw a lot of Sotoko in those fragments back in Chapter 8, so let's not leave her out. She may have some importance here, and she is a very different character here in this world. Well, anyways, thank you all for watching this one. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz, and I will see you all in the next one. Take it easy.